gentlemen of the jury, there was no evidence whatsoever that Alicia Andrews killed Charles Jones. No evidence whatsoever that Alicia Andrews wanted Charles Jones dead. No evidence whatsoever that Alicia Andrews did anything to help that group of men kill Charles Jones. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're not just here to deliver a verdict. You are here to right a wrong.
The trial has begun for one of the 5 suspects accused in the murder of rapper Julio Foolio, Charles Jones, with defendant Alicia Andrews facing serious charges while presenting a defense that distances her from direct involvement in the killing. The Julio Foolio trial has started, and the 5 people who murdered Julio Foolio, they are cooked, absolutely cooked. Now, 5 individuals are being accused of murdering Julio Foolio. However, only one is currently on trial, and that's the only female of the group. Andrews is facing separate proceedings from her co-defendants because her defense strategy differs significantly. While the other defendants maintain their innocence by claiming they weren't involved at all, Andrews acknowledges being present but claims she had no knowledge of the murder plot. Her defense, though, is, well, I was there when it happened. They definitely murdered Julio Foolio, but I ain't know what was going on. I was a bystander. Me and my boyfriend had a vacation booked, and he did a drill while we were on vacation. I don't know what took place. I don't know what happened. I'm innocent. According to prosecutors, Andrews was dating Isaiah Chance, one of the co-defendants with connections to young rappers in Jacksonville. The prosecution alleges that neither Andrews nor Chance were shooters, but instead played crucial surveillance roles in what court documents describe as a premeditated ambush. Their job allegedly involved tracking Foolio's movements throughout the evening and relaying this information to the actual shooters. Apparently, him and Alicia are being accused of running surveillance for the shooters. They were the ones who went around looking for Julio Foolio once they found Julio Foolio because Foolio was posting his location all night. This surveillance operation allegedly involved Andrews and Chance following Foolio throughout the evening while maintaining communication with the actual shooters. Phone records are a key element of the prosecution's case, with investigators claiming that Andrews' phone was used to coordinate the surveillance operation. When they were communicating, they was using Alicia Andrews' phone to call the killers and let them know, hey, Foolio here. The case has drawn significant attention, not only because of the victim's prominence as a rapper, but also because of the complex web of alleged gang connections and long-standing feuds that prosecutors claim motivated the killing. While Andrews herself is not alleged to be a gang member, her co-defendants reportedly have gang affiliations that prosecutors argue are central to understanding the motive for the murder. The prosecution has presented evidence suggesting this wasn't a spontaneous crime, but rather a carefully planned operation with roots in an ongoing conflict.
Charles Jones. You've heard his name in the indictment. That's his face. Just a few seconds of the mountain of evidence that you will see in this case of what happened that night. Evidence that will show you clearly that these co-conspirators hatched this murderous plot not minutes, not hours, but days before this, formulating in their hearts and minds this agreed upon, collective, and confederated plan with one common agreed upon goal: death, violence, and murder. A conspiracy motivated and hatched days before, hundreds of miles away from Tampa. A conspiracy that would span through those days and over 500 miles of travel.
Prosecutor Scott Harmon described the attack as a hellish onslaught that was the result of a precisely coordinated violence of action, characterizing the shooting as a barrage, or wall of hot lead, intended to overcome any protection Foolio might have had. This language emphasizes the prosecution's position that the attack was thoroughly premeditated rather than opportunistic. The motive allegedly stems from a long-standing feud between between rival Jacksonville gangs. According to court documents, Foolio, Charles Jones, was a documented member of a gang called 6 Block, which had an ongoing rivalry with allied gangs known as Ace's Top Killers, ATK, and 1200. Andrews' 4 co-defendants are allegedly members of either ATK or 1200. The brothers who killed Julio Foolio, they had personal beef. Julio Foolio was accused of going to their brother's grave and disrespecting it. Julio Foolio took their brother's killer when he got out of jail, brought him to a no-jumper interview, gave him clout. 2 of the alleged shooters, identified as Sean Gothright and Isaiah Chance, are characterized as D-riders who committed a body on someone they don't know, had no beef with for the most part because they wanted to fit in. This suggestion that some participants had personal motives while others were simply trying to gain status adds another layer of complexity to the case. The prosecution's timeline suggests the defendants saw that Foolio would be hosting a birthday party in Tampa, then traveled to the city and booked accommodations with the specific intention of locating and killing him. Cell phone records and surveillance footage are key components of the prosecution's evidence, allegedly showing the defendants tracking Foolio from venue to venue before the fatal shooting at a Holiday Inn near USF. Andrews' defense team is attempting to separate her from the alleged conspiracy by portraying her as an unwitting participant who was simply accompanying her boyfriend on what she believed was a vacation. Defense attorney Life Malcolm delivered an impassioned opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there was no evidence whatsoever that Alicia Andrews killed Charles Jones. No evidence whatsoever that Alicia Andrews wanted Charles Jones dead. No evidence whatsoever that Alicia Andrews did anything to help that group of men kill Charles Jones. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're not just here to deliver a verdict. You are here to right a wrong.
The defense has structured their argument around several key points.
Alicia Andrews was on a weekend trip with her boyfriend with only one agenda: to be with her boyfriend. 2, Alicia Andrews is not in a gang. 3, with the exception of her boyfriend, Alicia Andrews did not know any of those men in that group, and none of those men in that group knew Alicia Andrews. As a matter of fact, if there was some conspiracy, Alicia Andrews was not in the loop because she was not in the group. 4, Alicia Andrews is not a part of the drill rap culture, nor the drill rap scene. 5, Alicia Andrews did not have any physical evidence on any weapon displayed by the state. You would not find DNA, fingerprints, no physical evidence whatsoever linking Alicia Andrews to this case.
This approach aims to establish Andrews as separate from the core group that allegedly planned the murder by emphasizing her lack of gang connections and limited relationships with the co-defendants. The defense hopes to create reasonable doubt about her knowledge of and participation in the conspiracy. A significant setback for the defense occurred before the trial began when Judge Michelle Cisco ruled that Andrews' legal team would not be allowed to introduce evidence of alleged domestic violence by Isaiah Chance. This ruling prevents the defense from suggesting that Andrews was under duress or coerced into participating in the events. Despite this limitation, the defense maintains that Andrews was simply accompanying her boyfriend without knowledge of his intentions. They've suggested the relationship was on the outs, explaining why they booked 2 rooms at the Airbnb for what was described as a trip of reckoning and maybe reconciliation.
She says how many rooms? She says 2. Now, there's some assumption on Detective Ramos' side that because Alicia Andrews asked for 2 rooms for this romantic getaway, as he claims it to be, was some indication that she intended for this other group of guys to come to the Airbnb with them. In reality, Miss Andrews and Isaiah Chance were kind of on the outs. Didn't know if they were going to be on the in or the outs. So they got 2 rooms, bigger, more comfortable, some space for this trip that was to be a trip of reckoning and maybe reconciliation. Ultimately, though, Alicia Andrews and the friend or follower does not book the Airbnb. Somebody else does. Alicia Andrews did not know that somebody else books the Airbnb. She was out of the loop. Nonetheless, Airbnb booked on the way to Tampa. Isaiah Chance, and you saw the video, before he picks up Alicia Andrews, stops by Sean Gaithwright's house, where he packs up all of these bags. Alicia Andrews never sees what goes into the Impala. She's not a part of that packing process. Not in the loop. Isaiah Chance goes and then picks up Miss Andrews, brings her back to where they pack the bags, and then they head down to Tampa.
A key piece of evidence against Andrews is surveillance footage showing her wearing a mask during the alleged following of Foolio, but not earlier when the group visited a McDonald's.
In the interrogation room, Detective Ramos tells Alicia Andrews that she must not be wearing a mask at the clubs to conceal, she must be wearing the masks at the club to conceal her identity, because she's not wearing a mask at the McDonald's. But the reality is, Alicia Andrews thought that it was just going to be her and her boyfriend.
The prosecution suggests this indicates her awareness of the plot, as she only concealed her identity during the surveillance operation. The defense, however, has offered an alternative explanation for the mask.
No reason to wear the health mask, the medical mask then. She didn't know that Davion Murphy was going to bum rush the ride and take control of the driver's seat, let alone did she expect Isaiah Chance to let him do so. So she's caught without a mask unexpectedly. Davion's in the video, you see him smoking and puffing, and Alicia wants to say something, but she can't, because she's afraid to say something to this guy who just bogarted the cruise, made her man get in the back seat, and took over. She won't say anything. Not because she was trying to hide herself. She didn't say anything because she was scared. Not because she wanted the guy to smoke in her face, because she was scared. They get back to the Airbnb, and a few hours later, they head out again. Go to Club Teasers. Now they're in the cruise again, and Isaiah Chance is driving. Now the state asserts that because Isaiah Chance is driving and Alicia Andrews is right next to him while Isaiah Chance is on her phone, Alicia must have heard everything Isaiah said. They got that from Juan Ramos. But that's a bad assumption, because there's...
Objection to that comment, Your Honor. Is that proper?
Anyway, again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this are just the opening statements. The attorneys are telling you what they believe the evidence will be. That's all that it is, their beliefs. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's a bad assumption, because there's no way of knowing. Although the cell phone data shows that that line was open and there was communication between the two phones, there's no way of knowing whether Isaiah Chance was the talker or the listener. And even if Isaiah Chance was the talker, there's no way to know whether he was using explicit language that Alicia Andrews could understand. So when in the interrogation room, Detective Ramos asks Alicia Andrews what Isaiah Chance was saying, and she says, "I don't know." It was the truth. She didn't know. And there is no evidence whatsoever to the contrary.
My opinion is, I'm not buying that, not one bit, but acknowledges that juries sometimes accept unexpected defenses, noting cases like that of Hernandez go on in Young Dolph's murder, where defendants were acquitted despite significant circumstantial evidence. Andrews faces serious charges, including first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, though unlike her co-defendants, prosecutors are not seeking the death penalty in her case. This difference in potential punishment reflects the prosecution's view that while Andrews was allegedly involved in the conspiracy, she was not directly involved in the shooting and is not considered a gang member. The judge's ruling preventing the defense from introducing evidence of domestic violence represents a significant challenge for Andrews' legal team. Under Florida law, defendants charged with premeditated first-degree murder are not eligible to use duress as a defense, making any alleged domestic violence legally irrelevant to the murder case. She does have a steep hill to climb trying to explain why she was with her boyfriend, masked following Foolio around the entire night. However, the possibility that a jury might find reasonable doubt about her knowledge of the conspiracy. If she's saying, hey, I was just in the car with my boyfriend. He's the one who called the killers and let them know Julio Foolio dropped. He's the one, not me. I don't know what's going on. Then that's like a different story. This raises the question of whether a jury would convict Andrews of first-degree murder if there's doubt about her knowledge of the conspiracy. Do y'all believe what's going on? Do y'all believe that she did it? Do y'all believe she's guilty? Or do y'all believe her story? Man, she was just on a weekend getaway with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend got her in a world of trouble and didn't let her know what was going on. The case highlights the complexities of prosecuting alleged accomplices who claim ignorance of a larger criminal plot. As the trial proceeds, jurors will need to evaluate whether Andrews was an active participant in the conspiracy that led to Foolio's death, or merely an unwitting companion to her boyfriend during a trip that ended in violence. The outcome will likely hinge on how credible they find her claim of ignorance given the substantial circumstantial evidence of her involvement.